and Israel's carried out what it describes as a preemptive strike on Iranian nuclear targets, 200 fighter jets, more than 300 bombs. The site struck, including homes. Would you say Israel is justified in the action it's taken?
We absolutely recognise Israel's right to self-defence. We, the UK, were not involved in this attack, and we're urging all sides to de-escalate. Well, I'm very concerned about the situation that is developing, and it's obvious that for a long time we've had grave concerns about the nuclear programme that Iran is putting together.
Keir Starmer just called an emergency Cobra meeting, typically reserved for national crises. But why now? British intelligence has raised alarms about a catastrophic chain of events unfolding in the Middle East, including the very real threat of US military intervention. Could this meeting be the turning point for Britain's role in the conflict? Stay tuned to uncover the alarming reasons behind this sudden move. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. A Cobra meeting isn't just a routine government gathering. It's called when the stakes are highest. Terror attacks, natural disasters, or looming threats to national security. And now, Keir Starmer is demanding this meeting to address a crisis that has rapidly spiraled beyond borders. What makes this extraordinary is that Cobra meetings are typically reactive, coordinated by the government in power.
In March, US national intelligence made it public that they did not believe Iran was developing nuclear weapons. So has something changed in the assessment since then?
The nuclear programme is a real cause for concern. We're all saying de-escalate in relation to this incident, but none of us were involved in the actual attack. We went to the intelligence assessments, but we are gravely concerned. I just had a call with President Macron and Chancellor Merz to discuss the situation, and we are all on the same page.
But this time, the leader of the opposition is pushing for urgent action, signalling just how dire and politically charged the situation has become. The Middle East conflict has escalated at a speed that's raised international alarms. Reports from British intelligence suggest that a direct US military intervention could be imminent, transforming the conflict from a regional tragedy into a potential global crisis. The backdrop is chaotic. Missile exchanges between Israel and Hezbollah along the northern border, violent protests spreading across Arab nations, and growing evidence of Iranian involvement behind the scenes. These developments aren't just political headlines, they're warnings of a fragile geopolitical structure that may not hold.
Does that mean you're also gravely concerned about the fact that Israel has taken made this very big move, preemptive military action? I mean, you're concerned about Iran's nuclear program. Are you also concerned about Israel's choice of action?
Look, I do recognise Israel's right to self-defence. There's no doubt about that. But I am very concerned about the escalation of this situation, which is why, along with Germany and France, we're really clear that de-escalation is what is needed here. Well, I'm concerned about escalation, of course, and I'm going to speak to Prime Minister Netanyahu shortly after this interview, so obviously that'll be a topic of discussion.
Adding to the gravity, the Foreign Office has already evacuated diplomatic families from both Israel and Jerusalem. This isn't a precautionary measure. It's the kind of move governments take when they anticipate the landscape becoming too unstable for even trained personnel to remain. It's an unspoken admission that the situation could worsen drastically in a matter of days or even hours. And yet, Downing Street has so far been ambiguous about the role of the United States. When pressed on whether the US would act to limit its military presence, the response was carefully worded, non-committal, vague, and utterly unlike earlier reassurances that Washington wouldn't escalate. This shift in tone suggests a reverse in strategy, or more worryingly, a lack of clarity on what happens next. Could Britain be preparing for a future no longer controlled by diplomatic negotiations? For Starmer, the urgency is clear. This Cobra meeting isn't merely symbolic, it's a call to prepare for the fallout of a possible US-Iran confrontation and its ripple effects on British civilians abroad. The question now is whether the UK can stay ahead of the storm or risk becoming swept into it. Britain finds itself at a crucial crossroads. With tensions mounting in the Middle East and the spectre of US military action looming large, Keir Starmer's urgent Cobra meeting raises a pressing question. Is Britain ready to shape the outcome of this crisis, or will it simply scramble to contain the damage as events spiral? The stakes could not be higher. This isn't just about responding to immediate threats. What Britain decides now could redefine its role on the global stage. Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has already issued a chilling warning declaring that if the US enters the conflict militarily, its harm will be definitely irreparable. Such rhetoric isn't hollow. It heightens the risk of a broader regional war, placing countries like the UK, which has strong military ties to both the US and Israel, in a dangerously tight spot. The possibility of US airstrikes against Iranian nuclear facilities only adds to this high-stakes scenario. These actions could trigger responses not just from Iran, but potentially its allies across the region, sparking conflicts that the UK cannot ignore. Britain's historical alliances make neutrality an untenable position here. Diplomatic and military connections with Israel clash with its obligations to maintain relationships with key Gulf states, many of whom oppose Israeli actions. And this delicate balancing act gets even more precarious when considering the unpredictability of US foreign policy. Former President Donald Trump stirred tension further with a cryptic remark about Iran's leadership. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding, at least not for now. Our patience is wearing thin. Such statements deepen uncertainty and create new diplomatic challenges for the UK as it navigates a volatile situation. This Cobra meeting is tasked not only with immediate crisis management, but also with positioning Britain as either a stabilizing force in the region or potentially a participant in escalating conflict. While Starmer may aim for diplomacy, international realities could push Britain into choices that risk both global and domestic security. Whether this meeting will mark a turning point or signal a deeper entanglement remains to be seen. What is certain is that its impact will ripple far beyond the meeting room. Britain's response to this crisis could define not just the safety of British citizens abroad, but its authority on the global stage. The rare withdrawal of Foreign Office families from Israel signals how precarious the situation has become. With the potential for US military involvement, the stakes are higher than ever as geopolitical alliances hang in the balance. The Prime Minister's refusal to confirm prior assurances about US restraint emphasizes just how unpredictable this conflict is. As the Cobra meeting proceeds, the world is watching. Will Britain step up as a mediator or become entangled in a crisis spiraling beyond control?